Chapter 2, Muddle. The funny thing about Gertrude was that she was so human and so not human all at once. Thick black hair covered her entire body like a giant fur coat. Her head was enormous, with a bulging forehead as long as her face. Two unusually large ears stuck out on the sides of the gorilla's head, just above her eyes. The gorillas normally have tiny ears, but not Gertrude. Perhaps this is why the boy felt a special connection to her. Or perhaps it was her warm ginger eyes that flashed with kindness. The gorilla's wide nose was wrinkled like an old lady's. This was fitting, as Gertrude was an old lady. She was 50, positively ancient for a gorilla. But the thought that she was some sweet old dear would be gone the moment she opened her mouth. Fangs. Gertrude had the most magnificent set of fangs, 2 up and 2 down. Also not sweet old dearie were her arms. They were nearly as broad as her legs, and her legs were already broader than broad. What's more, her huge tummy was round like a barrel. The thing Eric loved most about his best friend were her hands and feet. They were much like his, except they were absolutely humongous. Here's a human foot and the gorilla's foot. Way bigger, aren't they? Gertrude might have been the biggest of all apes in London Zoo, but she was also the gentlest. Sometimes a sparrow would fly into her cage and land on her head. You might think that this gorilla, with its incredible strength, would crush an uninvited visitor in its hand. But not Gertrude. No, she would treat the little bird like a baby. The gorilla would hold it delicately in her hand and stroke it. Sometimes she would even mimic the bird song. Then she would give the little creature a kiss on the beak. Mwah! All this would delight the crowds who would gather around Gertrude's cage. The gorilla was London Zoo's star attraction. The worst thing about being an orphan was missing being hugged. Eric had lost his mum and dad during the war. They were both good at hugs. Sometimes they would even have a big family cuddle with Eric in the middle. They called it a muddle. Cuddle and middle. The boy loved those muddles most of all. Feeling the love and warmth of both his parents made him feel safe. Now the war had torn them away from him forever. Eric knew he would never have that feeling again. So when he gazed through the bars of Gertrude's cage, he often wished he could magic his way inside. Then the gorilla could just wrap her big strong arms round him and hold him tight. Gertrude was as big as both his parents put together. Eric was sure she could give him a jolly good muddle. Okay, we've got Chapter 3, Party Tricks. Eric had dashed past animal after animal until he finally reached his best friend's cage. To his sadness, he saw Gertrude the gorilla squatting in the corner with her back to the crowd, rocking to and fro. This was not right. Something was very wrong. The old girl was not her normal self at all. Usually, she would delight in showing off to the crowd, getting up to all sorts of tricks, especially for a banana, or 2, or 3, or as many as she could stuff in her gob at once, which was a lot, by the way. Gertrude's favourite party trick included sticking out her tongue, waggling her bottom, saluting like a soldier, putting her fingers in her ears, swinging on her rope like Tarzan, flattening her nose right up against the bars of the cage, peeling a banana with her feet, and beating her chest. Oh, here she's got some more, look. Performing a cartwheel, giving the crowd a royal wave, pretending to slip in a banana peel, copying the walk of anyone passing by, especially that of the uptight zoo director general himself, Sir Frederick Frown, rolling around in the straw, hooting with laughter, and blowing a banana up into the air with her mouth and catching it again. The boy couldn't bear seeing his friend looking so sad today. Last night's bombing raid had clearly frightened the life out of her. The crowd gathered around her cage were muttering and moaning. "I paid good money for this," fat lot of good that gorilla is." "What a waste of time," said another. Eric couldn't get through all the people, so he climbed up on top of a bench and shouted, "Gertrude!" The moment the gorilla heard her friend's voice, she stopped rocking and stood up. Then she leapt onto her rope and shimmied up with ease, using her hands and feet. Once at the top, she spotted the boy over the sea of heads. "Yeah!" she cried on seeing Eric, despite it being ear-splittingly loud. You could tell it was a happy cry.